Min HaMetzar, from out of the depths I call to you, God. On Rosh Hashanah of this year, I shared from this bima my concern for the rising anti-Semitism we were seeing in this country on the right and on the left, not only across the world in Europe, but yes, right here in America, even in our backyard of New York City. I never imagined that only 6 weeks later we would be gathering together to mourn the deadliest anti-Semitic attack on Jews in American history. We've seen the face of hate, and it is chilling. It cries out, "All Jews must die," before violently killing innocent people in a sanctuary. It is our Jewish community's worst nightmare, and it feels impossible to believe that it is happening here in America. But it's not just an attack on Jews alone. Bigotry loves company. And this Pittsburgh shooter expressed his hatred also for Muslims and for immigrants. And indeed, this shooting came a day after pipe bombs were sent to a number of prominent political leaders, which came only a day after another hate crime against blacks in Kentucky that led to 2 dead in a supermarket when the shooter could not get into a black church. This follows other violent hate crimes in recent years, including a mass shooting in a black church in Charlottesville, a gay nightclub in Florida, and a Sikh temple in Wisconsin. We know these are not just isolated incidents. There are systemic issues that have created an environment in which hate can grow. Anti-Semitism is the oldest and most adaptive hatred in history. But we know where there is a tolerance for anti-Semitism, there is a tolerance for hatred of all kinds. This is not the America we know we can be. This is not the America we want to leave for our children. When we finish mourning and get up from our Shiva, we will need to address the many ills that have enabled these acts of hate, from rising anti-Semitism to the demonization of immigrants and refugees, to the lack of sensible gun regulation, to the tolerance for hateful speech and incitement and fake news that proliferate on social media and the dark web. But in this moment, I want to make a call to our highest selves to put aside the finger pointing and blaming and fighting hate with more hate, and to ask, how do we make sure that love wins? That solidarity and faith and goodness wins? I feel it in the air. It's happening right here in this vigil, but not only here, but in the hundreds of vigils happening around the nation and even the world that have brought people together across lines of age, race, faith, political movement. I have been moved to tears by the show of support. And I want to make a special thank you to the clergy who've come here tonight on the bima, the most incredible religious leaders leading the most significant congregations and institutions of this city. And when I asked if you would stand with us, you said yes. On our ark are the Hebrew words, Da lifnei mi ata omed, know before whom you stand. And I want all of you to know before whom we stand, who have stood with us tonight. Just to introduce them, Cardinal Timothy Dolan from the Archdiocese of New York, Reverend Amy Butler, Senior Minister of the Riverside Church, Pastor Amanda Sturr, Senior Pastor of our neighbor, St. Peter's Church, Imam Shamsi Ali, Director of the Jamaica Muslim Center, Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz, Senior Rabbi of Congregation Kehilat Jeshurun, Reverend Bertram Johnson, Minister from Middle Collegiate Church, Imam Tahir Kukaj from the Albanian Islamic Cultural Center, Rabbi Deborah Joslow, Chief Planning Officer of UJA Federation New York, Dr. Simran Jeet Singh from the Sikh Coalition. And because Hayas was also specifically targeted in this most recent shooting, we want to affirm our commitment as Jews to stand for the immigrant and the refugee. And I'm really pleased that Diane Loeb, who is the chair of the board of Hayas and also a member of Central Synagogue, is on our bima. And of course, I want to especially thank Governor Cuomo and all the other elected officials who are here tonight. Members of the governor's administration, members of New York Congress, members of New York Legislature, city council members, and labor leaders. In times like this, we look to our elected officials, to our leaders of our country, to speak out unequivocally against hate, and to take action to protect our communities. When the highest official in our state said he wanted to stand with the Jewish community and to gather our political leadership and religious leaders of all faiths to affirm our solidarity as New Yorkers against hatred and bigotry of all kinds, we had to say yes. We thank you, Governor, for making this a priority and for being here tonight. And finally, I want to thank all of you for filling this sanctuary, for coming from so many different communities. It may have taken an act of courage for you to step into a synagogue after the violence of this weekend, but you've shown up. And we're going to need even more courage to build this nation the way we know we can. We will need more courage to stand up to the bigotry and prejudice we will hear, not just from our enemies, but sometimes from the mouths of our friends. We'll need more courage to build alliances across lines of difference, even when we don't always agree, even when it makes us uncomfortable. And we will need more courage to reach out to people who might hate us in order to build bridges. And most of all, we will need courage to not lose hope, to not give in to the cynicism and despair of this moment. Let us draw courage from one another. I know that I am feeling deeply strengthened by feeling the power of all of you here tonight. We thank you. And now it is my great honor to invite to our bima Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Good evening to the elected officials who are here this evening, to the clergy, His Eminence, to all our friends who are here, especially on short notice in a sign of solidarity. Thank you for being here. We thank Rabbi Angela Buchdahl for those powerful comments. The rabbi was born in South Korea to a Japanese-born Korean Buddhist mother and a father who was an American Ashkenazi Reform Jew. Her father's ancestors emigrated from Romania to the United States. At the age of 5, she moved to the United States with her family. She was raised Jewish, attending Temple Beth Al in Tacoma, Washington, which her great-grandparents had assisted in founding a century before. Rabbi Buchdahl is the first Asian American to be ordained as a cantor and as a rabbi in the world. My friends, that says it all. God bless America. Only in America. She is the first woman and the first Asian American to be the senior rabbi of Central Synagogue in its 175-year history. God bless the state of New York. But we gather tonight on a somber moment because this is a dark and frightening time in our nation. Our better angels have been overpowered. The character of America is being perverted. And yes, the power of hate is overtaking the power of love. We mourn and we embrace the families of the 11 victims in Pittsburgh and grieve with them. We mourn and grieve for the African-American community in Kentucky, and we suffer with those who endured the anxiety and threats of mail bombs last week. But we would not be here tonight if these were isolated incidents. They are not. There is a frightening pattern developing on many levels of American society. Anti-Semitic incidents have increased 57% nationwide. Neo-Nazi groups have increased 22% in this country. Nativists and white supremacy groups are on the rise. At the demonstration in Charlottesville, in August 2017, members of the Ku Klux Klan felt so empowered They didn't even need to wear their hoods to hide their faces. The societal fabric of America is stressed and frayed. We gather this evening to pray and to marshal the voices of support and love as an antidote to the forces of division and hate. Elie Wiesel said, "There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest." As governor, I pray with you this evening, but as governor, I also state in the strongest term that we are a nation of laws and we are a state of laws, and we have zero tolerance for discrimination or hate in the state of New York. Hate is not protected by our law, not in speech and not in action. Quite the opposite. Our state has the most aggressive hate crimes laws in the country. And I announce today that we are doubling both our security and our prevention efforts. You have my word as governor that we will stamp out the evil of discrimination whenever and wherever it rears its ugly head. The Jewish community is an important member of the family of New York, and we will protect our family, all together, all united. But I am afraid that enforcing the law, while an essential, important step, is not the only step. Being prepared to fight the fire is necessary, but we must work to prevent the fires from starting in the first place. I feel as if we are standing in a field of dry grass with smoldering embers surrounding us, and a strong wind is shifting directions. We must stamp out the embers before they become flames, and we must reduce the winds of hate that threaten the fields of peace. There are those who now will wrap themselves in the flag of America and then go out and do violence in the name of America. But they could not be more wrong or more misguided. They do not begin to understand the character of America, and they disgrace the very flag they carry. Our founding fathers would be repulsed by these ignorant acts of violence. In school, one of the first lessons we learn about America is when we are asked to raise our hands to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Whatever your religion, whatever your race, whatever your creed, we are indivisible. Our founding fathers anticipated that there would be differences because we were being born as a collection from across the globe. But we were to have, as Jefferson said, a decent respect for the opinions of others. One of the founders' first acts was to pass a law to make the motto and on the seal of the United States, E pluribus unum, out of many one. It set the tone of unity and commonality. Those very same founders didn't fear immigration, they embraced it. It was the British government's bid to block migration to the colonies that was among one of the reasons cited for the revolution in the Declaration of Independence. The tremendous right to practice your religion in freedom was a powerful magnet drawing many to America. The Pilgrims were separatists from the Church of England. The Huguenots settled the Hudson Valley, French Protestants fleeing persecution in Roman Catholic France, English Catholics under George Calvert colonized Maryland, Quakers in Pennsylvania, Jewish people in Rhode Island seeking the religious freedom established by Roger Williams. 1 year into his presidency, George Washington visited a synagogue in Newport, Rhode Island, as the First Amendment was being debated. To his Jewish hosts, Washington wrote a remarkable letter. He reasserted that the government of the United States, quotes, gives no sanction to bigotry, no assistance to persecution, and requires only that the people who live under the protection of the government conduct themselves as good citizens. Washington quoted the Bible to remind them that, in effect, they had reached their promised land. May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit in safety under one's own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make him afraid. That was George Washington to the Jewish community. There was no period that tested our unity more than the Civil War. And as the war closed, President Abraham Lincoln pointed the nation to the future in his second inaugural address, saying, "With malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace." Lincoln's invoking God is relevant and instructive. We are one nation under God. It is not just our government that instructs peace and tolerance, but our religious heritage as well. We are gathered in a house of worship today. Christianity teaches us tolerance. Matthew 25 instructs us in Catholicism to do the least for our brothers. Judaism speaks to the concept of tikkun olam, to reach out and heal the breach. And the concept of tzedakah, literally justice, literally charity, but more broadly meaning the concept of social justice. Buddhism, Islam, virtually every religion speaks of tolerance, acceptance, and condemns violence. The victims in Pittsburgh were engaged in a sacred Jewish naming ceremony of a newborn, a bris, celebrating the joy of a new life, only to perish in the face of hate. We will not let them die in vain. We must once again, in Lincoln's words, bind up the nation's wounds. We must rise above our traditional political divisions. We must refrain from fanning the embers of hate before the flames are out of control. Our American values override our political partisan differences. Intolerant voices of division must be condemned by all, and not episodically, but consistently, not only for public consumption, but genuinely with personal commitment. Political debate must honor Jefferson's mandate of civil discourse. Our political leaders must heed this wisdom today. At this time of chaos, confusion, ignorance, and fear, this nation needs a light to follow, and let that light be the torch that is held by the great lady in our harbor. Let New York State once again serve this nation as an example to follow. That is the legacy of this great state throughout history, a beacon of progressive values. We are home to 19 million people from every nation on the globe. New York State is the laboratory of the American experiment in democracy. We are not threatened by diversity. We celebrate diversity. Generations of immigrants stepped off ships and planes onto our shores. This state has thrived because we have no tolerance for discrimination, not in our laws and not in our spirit. We are a people of differences, but we have forged community through cords of commonality. This state exemplifies the best of the American spirit. The rabbi asks us what we can do. Let us commit ourselves this evening to a constructive course of action. Let New Yorkers exemplify what it means to be a true American patriot. Let New York show this nation what the flag actually means. Let us lead forward in the way of darkness. Let us lead as a government, as a community, and let us lead as individual citizens. Let us lead this nation at this time of confusion by the power of our example. There is no place for hate in our state, and New York lives by the credo that the most powerful four-letter word is still love. Thank you, and God bless you.
Governor Cuomo, we sure appreciate your initiative, and Rabbi Buchdahl, we sure thank you and your congregation for your characteristically gracious welcome. When we Catholics went to Sunday Mass the morning after the massacre, the gospel that we heard on that Sunday began simply enough, but did it ever cause awe to the congregation? Listen, this is how it began. It was the Sabbath, and Jesus went to the synagogue to pray. The deacon paused before proclaiming the rest of the gospel, and I could hear the people at St. Patrick's let out a gasp as they realized the profound nature of that simple statement. It was a Sabbath, and Jesus went to the synagogue to pray. Those wonderfully faithful Jews in Pittsburgh, whom we all now consider family, were doing what Jesus had done 2 millennia before. They had gone to their synagogue on the Sabbath to pray. How innocent, how decent, how noble, how good, how human. Whenever any human life at any stage is violently ended, it is tragic, right? But when that person whose life is taken belongs to a faith, a race that has endured bigotry and hatred and persecution for millennia, a Jewish life, it's worse. And when that violence occurs in a sanctuary consecrated to peace and unity and love and reconciliation, it's nauseating. How appropriate that we New Yorkers, like those Pittsburgh 11, like Jesus, the faithful Jew, would come to a synagogue to pray.
I stand here tonight with love and solidarity from your friends at the Riverside Church and from many Christians around the country and the world. As I gave some thought to what I might say tonight, what anyone could possibly say in a moment like this, I'm especially aware of the power of words. The violence we saw this week did not begin at 9:54 on Saturday morning. It is born of generations of hate and lies and not so benign apathy. And these days it has found refuge in a political climate in which words are weaponized for political gain. Some may say that words are just words, but we have to be clear tonight, that's not true. Language that dehumanizes, that urges us to turn toward our neighbors in suspicion and fear rather than love and compassion. That's what results in a gunman walking into a house of worship and killing people who are gathered for prayer. Words have power. That's why tonight we have to share this message loud and clear. As people of faith and good conscience, we reject discrimination and hatred. Anti-Semitism has no place in our country. We will not tolerate violence against our neighbors, ever. In the Christian tradition, we have a particular relationship with words. For us, words have the power to become enfleshed. We believe that the Word was with God and in the beginning of creation came to live among us. As a child born to a young unwed mother, as an immigrant who fled violence and persecution, as a rabbi who served on the very margins of a powerful empire. And we know this for certain. If words of hate can become embodied, then it is even more true that words of hope and faith and love can transform our world. In all of our traditions, we learn of God's expectation. Our work in this life is to love God and to love our neighbor. Believing this with all that we have, we must cling close to community to affirm for each other what sometimes we just can't affirm by ourselves. These are the times we have to ask ourselves whether we truly believe what we proclaim, that life will be victorious over death, that hate cannot overcome love. And then we must speak and act from a place of courage. With this in mind, I close my time with this blessing in the words of Jan Richardson, a blessing for when the world is ending. Look, the world is always ending somewhere. Somewhere the sun has come crashing down. Somewhere it has gone completely dark. But listen, this blessing means to be anything but morose. It has not come to cause despair. It's simply here because there is nothing a blessing is better suited for than an ending. Nothing that cries out more for a blessing than when the world is falling apart. This blessing, it will not fix you, it will not mend you, it will not give you false comfort. It will not talk to you about one door closing and another door opening. It will simply sit itself beside you among the shards and gently turn your face toward the direction from which the light will come, gathering itself about you as the world begins again. Amen.
We're going to sing a song together about building, and tonight especially about rebuilding. And we do that together as one family, one big community tonight. We do it together from love. In order to do that, we want to teach you a very simple melody in response to the many different languages that you'll hear in this song. The response is just this. Ya la 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 la. If you would sing that. Ya la 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 ya la la la. So I sing Olam Chesed Yibaneh, and you sing Ya la 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 ya la la.
Ku bangun dunia ini dengan cinta. Oh la
Ya la 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 ya la la.
Olam chesed yibaneh.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
Dotan der toimboten med ashuri.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
I will build this world from love.
Ya la 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 ya la la. Olam chesed yibaneh. Ya la 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 ya la la.
Kau bangun dunia ini dengan cinta.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
I will build this world from love.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
Dotan der toimboten med ashuri.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
And you must build this world from love.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
Olam chesed yibaneh.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
Dan kita bangun dunia ini dengan cinta.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
Then God will build this world from love.
Ya la 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 ya la la.
I've had the privilege over the past 22 years, maybe 30 times, to stand at this bima, mostly to remember with sorrow with all of you on the day of Yom HaShoah. and always to say as forcefully as possible with you, never again. And that makes tonight heartbreaking and frustrating. And so I pray you would take to heart the words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not be in want. The Lord makes me lie down in green pastures. The Lord leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. The Lord leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup is running over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
There is a very ancient mourning custom in our Jewish tradition that dates back to biblical times, that when someone would hear of the death of a loved one, they would tear their clothes as a sign of their mourning, as a visceral reaction to their pain. And we do this custom called Kriya still to this day, but instead of tearing our clothes, we tear a ribbon. I hope that you received a ribbon on your way in. This tearing is typically done for those who are close relatives, and it's a sign that you're an immediate mourner. But our tradition also teaches that when a virtuous person dies, everyone is obligated to rend their clothes. And we have lost 13 innocent souls in this last week to acts of hate and violence. We are all mourners tonight. Even as we send our love and prayers to the family members of those who are deceased, whose grief we cannot fathom. So in a moment, I'm going to actually invite all of us to take part in this ancient ritual together. And perhaps even invite you to think about wearing this ribbon for 7 days, and when people ask you why, you can tell them. It's instructional, however, that we don't tear it all the way apart. We tear it so there is still a possibility for it to be mended. It's a reminder that they might try to tear us apart, but we will stand strong together. They might try to tear us down, but we will rise up together in unity. They might try to tear and tear and tear, but they will not shred the values that bring us together and bind us together as Americans. So let us use this ribbon as a reminder of the work that we have to do. Today, to mourn, as many people are being buried in Pittsburgh today. But when we come up from our mourning to do the work we need to mend our society and to bring us back together. So if you're able, I invite you to please rise. If you don't have the ribbon, you can put it on your right side. I would invite you to tear it gently from the bottom up. And feel that ripping. And if you're comfortable, I invite you to share these words after me in the Hebrew and in the English. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, eternal our God. sovereign of the universe, who judges in truth. Amen. Please be seated.
In just a few moments, we'll read aloud the names of those killed during this past week in acts of hate in Pittsburgh and Kentucky. And as we read their names, we remember that they were so much more than a name. Each victim had lived decades and had lives full of family and friends, hard work, failures, and successes, and so many blessings. We remember that among them were two brothers who were the regular volunteer greeters at the door of the Tree of Life Synagogue. There was a retired VA hospital administrator, a dentist known for serving patients without insurance, a man who recently welcomed his first grandchild into the world, and another woman who was the grandmother of 6 children. There was a devout Pittsburgh Pirates fan and a physician who was one of the first to welcome in patients early on during the AIDS crisis. And another victim was described by his friends as a warm and easygoing person who always greeted people with a hug. Tonight we honor all of them and their lives with the Hebrew words Zichronam Livracha. May their memories always be for a blessing. Amen.
Richard Godfried, 65.
Rose Mallinger, 97.
Joyce Feinberg, 75.
Cecil Rosenthal, 59.
David Rosenthal, 54.
Bernice Simon, 84.
Sylvan Simon, 86.
Daniel Stein, 71.
Melvin Wax, 88.
Irving Younger, 69.
Maurice Stollard, 69.
Vicki Lee Jones, 67.
The following prayer is the El Mole prayer, the memorial prayer. Our primary purpose here in being here this evening is to remember those 13 people whose lives were cut short. In Judaism, there is an ethics of memory, to remember those that we love, and by remembering them, show that we continue to love them, because the obligation to love and remember does not end at death. And so we use different prayers as vehicles of memory. The El Mole, the Yizkor prayer, the Kaddish prayer. Tonight, the prayer we are about to recite is particularly fitting. One of those who was killed in the attack in Pittsburgh, Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz, would make it his mission to say the Kaddish prayer for those who had died but did not leave behind a family to recite prayers for them. And so Jerry recited for all those who had no one else to say prayers for them. It was Jerry's mission to ensure that they would not be forgotten, that they would be remembered. Tonight, it's our mission to remember Jerry and to remember all who've died in these two attacks. Please remember them during the prayer, and please rise.
El Male Rachamim Shochen Bameromim Hamitzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Bemalot Kedoshim Kedoshim Otehorim Kedoshim Otehorim Kezohar Harakia Meirim Umazirim Et Nishmot Acheinu Bnei Yisrael HaKedoshim VeHaTehorim Yakireinu Lachem Bal Harachamim Yastirem Meseiser Kenafav Leolamim Bitzror Bitzror HaChaim Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmatam V'yitzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmatam Adonai Hu Nachalatam V'yanuchu v'shalom al mishkavam v'nomar
O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect rest on the wings of the divine presence to the victims of these two attacks whose names we have just read and in whose memory we pray. May their resting place be in Gan Eden. May you, Master of compassion, shelter them in the shadow of your wings forever and join their souls in the bonds of everlasting life. You, God, are their heritage. May they rest in eternal peace. Amen.
It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. Shalom. 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 Just shalom. 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 Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties among the fruited plain. America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Thank you and good night. Peace to you all.